Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager 23. This is episode 49. We're going to begin this episode with some real life shattering news of Gunther Steiner out at Haas. Real surprise, that one. I get that they've underperformed, but they haven't underperformed because they're doing less than what they can. They're doing exactly what they can. They are, in effect, the smallest team. Now, the game doesn't have them as the smallest team. They definitely have them somewhere around 8 or 9, but they're always in that tail end of the grid. Always. Even in the game, and especially in real life. They had, what, sixth? Sixth place finish? I think that's the highest they've had. Gunther Steiner's been there from the very beginning. He, under Gene Haas, built the team. So to see him out is a real surprise. Real surprise. Real character. Well liked by a lot of people. Very outspoken. Not that I've seen Drive to Survive the last couple of seasons because it's utter garbage and artificial crap that anyone who's a real F1 fan knows is manufactured drama. 95% of it. The 5% that is real isn't enough to get me back the last couple seasons to watch it, but it certainly brought on a lot of new people into the sport. And he is probably the most bold character that they've had in that Drive to Survive. The one who gives them their favorite sound bites for sure. But anyway, for us back in the game, we had a regulation vote regarding a little more socialist approach to the distribution of prize money at the end of the season, and only 3 teams voted in favor, including us, which means it has been turned down. So the structure will remain the same. I think that was our final regulation vote for the season. And speaking of for the season and final, it was just after the last episode, the end of the last race that we participated in, that I kind of went, oh, whoa, hold on a second. Season's almost done. I thought we had really just hit halfway and we were just past the halfway point, but no, we're a good bit past it already. 17 races completed. We are on the home stretch right now, and for the first time, and this largely thanks to the regulation change, for the first time we're really seeing an actual battle. Red Bull has won every championship comfortably throughout this game. When you start that far ahead of everybody else, it's hard for them to catch up. It's taken a massive vehicle overhaul, but in that massive overhaul, look at the standings. What's different about it? We passed McLaren. That's about it. Haas is last. Alfa Romeo, neither one has scored points, but Alfa Romeo's ahead of Haas in terms of the standings this season. AlphaTauri's same spot they were. We've flipped with McLaren. I think they were 6th last season. Mercedes is about where they were. Alpine has jumped up the grid a little bit to 3rd. I think Aston Martin was there a season ago. Mercedes has been down about where they're at. So very, very little has changed in terms of the standings. And that's the thing. When you take away 50%, well, 50% of 100 is 50. 50% of 50 is 25. Might close the gap up. 50 to 25 is only a gap of 25, where the gap from 100 to 50 was 50. So it does shrink the gaps a little bit, and that's what's given us a chance to make a car that is significantly better and moved us up essentially to the front of the grid, but the driver pairing has us a little bit further down. All things considered, the gap's a little tighter, and we're seeing that. The points are tighter. Top 2, still in contention. 3rd, down to, wow, it's getting late enough that I think Alpine's pretty well settled ahead of us, but the gap between 3rd and 4th is still there. The gap between 4th and 5th is still there. The gap between 5th and 6th is, we could. Theoretically, we could score that 50 points to get ahead of Mercedes, right? If we pushed for it, if we really were going for it, if we put the best parts on Sargent's car, I think he absolutely could get us to 5th at this point. Like I said, I think we could have been competing for 3rd this season if we wanted to. But again, long-term goals, you know what they are by now. We're not going to go through that a millionth time. But at just 33 points ahead of McLaren, I'm not optimistic that we're going to get there, but I'm still hopeful that we could get them over that hurdle. The hard part is we keep scoring points for the most part. Last race, nothing though. That was a big step in the right direction. And I really think that McLaren only has 35 to 40 points left in them with 6 races to go this season. Is it 6? I don't think they're going to get much more than 35 to 40 points. Meaning if we score just about anything, we're going to be a lock for 6. Our outgoing race engineer is now an 87 overall, putting him back from 1 point better than anybody else on the staff to now 2 points better. He's a good one. The big change is coming where he is going to be out at the end of the season.
Our calendar brings us to the Middle East this weekend for the Qatar Grand Prix. Lusail International Circuit is a speed demon, fast and flowing with a long main straight, one that's sure to see plenty of overtaking action. As a desert track, Lusail is dusty and challenging. Grip levels are crucial and can change throughout a race weekend or even during a single session. The unique layout demands the highest possible downforce despite being a relatively open track. The sprint today sees the drivers tackle 19 laps of the Lusail International Circuit.
It's a fast track here in Qatar. Expect to see the pack fight it out, trading places to improve their chances of scoring more championship points.
Forget the scheduled pit stops today. It's all about racing. We're ready for the sprint here in Qatar. And it's lights out and away we go.
And we're in the Middle East for the penultimate time. We're going to be making our America's trip following this one. It's a sprint race, which means more wear on components. And I had already declared that I really was going to try to save components and use that as a way to help nerf us here at the end of the season. Well, because there's more wear and tear on a sprint weekend, I've taken it upon myself to really nerf the pair for today. Flourish started P15 but did not get a very good start. She's down to 18th or 17th here as we push on. I've also put both cars on the mediums where a number of drivers are probably going to opt for the softs. Sargent, every single one of the engine components is worn. We're looking at 31% engine, 21% ERS, and a 32% gearbox. And yet still qualified P2. Poor start though, drops into P4 probably because of the medium. And as for Flourish, we're looking at 55% for the engine, 64% for the ERS, 34% for the gearbox. So both are fairly nerfed for today. I'd very much like to see us go backwards a bit, but again, with everybody else on softs, so we're going to be fast at the end. Wow, everybody took the softs but us. The equivalent is they should be about 1 second faster, but I'm trying to save those tires for tomorrow.
P18.
And we're gonna come back at cars in the final laps of this one. But speaking of final laps, well, let's go ahead and speed things up. It's a sprint, and like I said, I'm not wanting to be aggressive. I'm not wanting to score points, so I'm happy to be going backwards right now with Sargent. So we are definitely off the pace compared to others, and dropping backwards. Sargent down to P8, Flourish is P18, Sargent now P9. But again, in the final laps, the second half of this race, it's going to be the opposite direction. We're going to be going forward instead of backwards. I just don't think we're going to make up enough ground. I feel like Sargent in particular has lost way too much. He's down to 13th now. Fuel's already nearly right, which is awfully early. Leclerc has pulled massively away and looks comfortable to take the win for this race. But we're down to 13th and 20th. Clearly choosing the wrong compound, but it's going to set us up nicely, or at least a little bit better, for the race proper with the extra softs. Albon takes a pit. Are a bunch of them going to pit? I have no idea why Albon decided to pit. A lot of them are about to drop below that 30% threshold here right about now. 16 laps. Let's go ahead and push. I'm not as worried about scoring some points today. Let's see what we can do in the final laps. Norris is 6th. He's set to score some points. We have started to go forward. 12th, now 11th for Sargent. So we recover 2 positions, but it's nothing like the P2 that we started. Definitely not the right strategy call, but I'm perfectly fine with that. And it looked like right behind us, Sonoda, going backwards fast, has a puncture. It's like I want to do bad and I don't want to do bad. It's like I want to attack right now with past both of the Red Bull. Final corner, will we get Verstappen? That's all I want. That's all I want. Attack. He's not going to get him. All right, well, there's a Nerf for the day. P11, P17. Florsch recovering a few positions there. Sonoda and DeVries and Maloney have all punctured. So she's gotten P16 in the end.
Here on the outskirts of Doha, the excitement continues to build as we approach the Qatar Grand Prix. A chance for the Aston Martin driver to show what they can do.
It's a P2 start for them, an excellent opportunity, and no doubt they'll be looking to grab it with both hands.
This should certainly be a good one, folks. We're all set here in Lusail. And it's lights out, and away we go.
And we are racing. We're going to go with a 2-stop strategy. We saved our softs for this race. We started a little bit higher up, 9th and 16th, after some of the drivers took penalties. You can see a lot of the cars are on mediums now, unavailable on the softs. Will we move up this time, unlike or the opposite of what happened with the other race? Well, we'll find out the fast way today. Hopefully we can keep ourselves out of the points, but overheating is happening very fast, so we're going to stop it from getting too bad here through this lap. We're going to shut things down a little bit earlier before we got to that 3rd lap, about the midpoint of that 2nd lap, and that kept the temperatures a little bit lower. They seem to take a really long time to get back under. In fact, they're still overheating. We need to back off and get these temperatures under control. Tire temperature, a real issue here. There we go, back into the yellow. Bottas, oh, he was at the front of the grid. He crashed on turn 2. He was in a podium spot, I believe. Yeah, he was running 2nd. He is going again, but he is last place. So from 2nd to 20th, he's also a little ways off the back. That really messed up his day. That's got Norris up on the podium for now. Norris in P3. Right where we want to see him. Sargent getting a maximum of 2 points for the day. Sounds wonderful to me. Yes, we have major ERS damage because things are not looking good. Now 19% for the ERS. Very quickly starting to overheat. It's hard to push here. It's hard to even drive standard. Yellow I'm okay with. If we overheat too much, we gotta back off again. Already dropping below 60%. Already entering the pit window. Bottas is way off the back now. Looks a lot worse than it was. Is that because he's pushing tires that don't have any life left in them? Leclerc pulling away just like he did in the sprint. Pourchaire pulling away a bit from Norris. But then you've got a pretty close contest through the rest of the field. No major stretches. Or gaps. Verstappen first to pit, Albon second to pit on the same lap there. Verstappen had an issue on his pit stop. He was the one just ahead of us, and we're getting very close to the time where we are going to be pitting. So let's go ahead and go aggressive, push for the in lap, reserve the tires, but we did not go forward like one would expect based on how that sprint went, how everybody just drove past us and we went backwards rapidly and only made up a little bit of ground on the final lap or two. Did not expect it to go quite like this. We've got enough of a gap here. It's more than 10 seconds. Verstappen's come back out in clean air in 18th. Sargent. Next car down pit road. Just the 3rd one to do so. No, 4th one to do so. Somebody ahead of us has pit. They're going to get held up for a moment. No, the Aston Martin gets out just ahead of us. There you go. Sargent, 2.667. Florsch, Plenty of time to get ready here. A lot of cars on pit road this time. 2.642. So very similar time for the pair. Decent stop for the pair. We don't want to push long at all. The temperature seems like it increases rapidly, but we'll get a few degrees. Let them get up naturally. So Sargent comes back out in P15. Florsch is P18. We are ahead of Verstappen. So we overcut Verstappen there. So it seems that the tires take a moment to get up to temperature as we get around Maloney and Zhou in the pits. Verstappen gets around us on the track with DRS. Fuel not recovering well at all. Let's do just little bits of fuel recovery over time to help us. Norris has overtaken Sargent. He pit late. That brought him down the order. Verstappen's 5th now. Perez, Norris, Sargent's 8th. After everything's said and done there. And still a Ferrari 1-2. And the Ferrari's well out in front. And with the Red Bull struggles, I think the championship is well and truly on. Ocon with a lockup knocks him way down the order. I'm not seeing any flags, so it looks like it was pretty minor. A Haas, AlphaTauri, Gio on the inside there. Looks like he got clipped by the AlphaTauri. Not complete on the overtake, and they're trying to cut down into the apex when the Haas is still there. On pit road for our final stop of the day. Oof. Pulling out right in front of Sargent, but that's something that wouldn't have happened before. 2.7. Florsch. No mistakes, please. I would be happy with something faster than a 2.6, though. We've been slow today. Another 2.7. Not a good day for the pit crew, but not a bad day. There we go. We are seeing some more pits here. Leclerc, Stroll, Ocon, Gio, Sainz all need to pit. Gasly going for the softs for this final stint. Bottas is on the hards. There we go. There's 3 of them coming. And coming out right behind us on brand new softs means they're going to be faster. And looks like we still might need to lift and coast a little bit. We're going to be at jeopardy of going backwards. Stroll's already overtaken Sargent down to P10. This is looking good. Ocon gets around down to P11. It's perfect. We're just out of the points. That's 11th is like ideal right now. And Florsch not being last. This is ideal territory. We don't want to score more points. And Norris is back up to 4th. Magnussen's 8 seconds behind us. So Sargent lifting, drops out of range of Tsunoda. And this is an ideal scenario. So Florsch all over the back of Maloney, looking for P17. Zhou is not that far ahead either, so she's got a chance. As Leclerc begins the final lap, so she is just barely a lap down. That is Ferrari somewhere a little bit further ahead. There's the Ferrari. Sargent perfectly at P11 is catching Tsunoda, though. I don't want to push on this final lap. Sargent starting the last lap. Remember, the Ferrari's just ahead of us. Not going to get the run on Maloney. And that's P18. Last couple of corners, and we've done just enough to nerf Sargent to stop them from scoring points today. Norris claims P4. Fantastic day for us. That's what we want, folks. We want to be beat by the McLarens. Long-term goals here. Leclerc, Russell. Leclerc in particular is starting to put up a fight on Verstappen. For the constructors, that's it, folks. 50-point swing. Ferrari. It was a sprint weekend, so they scored 58 points today. And they are now plus 10 on Red Bull. For the first time in this playthrough, we have a team other than Red Bull on top. Beyond maybe the first race or something like that. There might have been a scenario where race number 1 or race number 2, they weren't in first. But as the season has progressed, they have never trailed until today. Meanwhile, Mercedes pull further away, 70 points ahead. I think we can now safely say, especially with the nerfing as it continues with 5 races to go, that we're okay. And McLaren grabs 15 points today. I was worried they weren't going to get more than 40 over the final 6 races. They managed to get 15 on the first opportunity. 5 opportunities left, 18 points to go to squeeze ahead of us and give us our perfect outcome of a 7th place. Our terrible day in the pits still led to the 9th and 10th fastest pit stops. With 5 races to go, it's time that I make an important decision. I have completed preparation process. We'll get to that part in a second. But with a 17 attribute point gap between Sargent and Florsch, yes, she has progressed at a 2-to-1 rate compared to Sargent. That gap will, over time, get smaller and smaller. But she does have a capacity, and it feels like it's in the 70s. I don't think she's going to get to an 84 like Sargent. So we can't have a driver like Sargent permanently. And we're already doing so much to knock him down a peg. And it's actually saved us some money. But he's got an expiring contract, and he's going to be asking for a lot more money as it is. For us, it's a good opportunity to successfully nerf things by starting to bridge the gap. A 17-point gap between the two drivers has only slowly shrunk down from where Florsch started at like a 52. She's plus 15. That's great. Sargent's plus 7. But again, too many years need to go by before she's going to be equivalent. So we need to start the process. So next season we are going to have a new driver. And we're going to start... No, we're not going to go down to somebody at Florsch's level. And no, we're not going to put Tanaka in the seat right now, who's another 14 points below. She is progressing quickly, but we're going to keep her as the reserve for at least one more season. At least. Probably one more season. But looking at what to do with Sargent's seat, I want to cut the gap roughly in half. 17-point gap between them. I'd like to get somebody that's roughly a 76 overall, which is similar to where Sargent started. Meaning he's going to nerf, or that driver will nerf themselves fairly effectively for us. And if we have a good car, we should be able to effectively fight for, the P6 or P7 in the championship on merit and not have to back off, push. And meanwhile, Florsch will be significantly closer to that driver than she is to Sargent, making it a little more competitive and hoping that she could score some of the points as well along the way as we keep progressing forward, especially as she, throughout next season should be getting 70 plus. So you've already got a clue as to what direction I'm going with this. But let's take a look at the driver pool and just kind of get an update on where everyone is at. Verstappen is the highest rated at 95. Leclerc's a 94. Norris is a 93. No wonder the McLaren seems to be punching above its weight. Russell is a 92. Those are the only 4 beyond 90 drivers. Gasly is a 90. Surprised to see him rated that highly. Surprised to see Stroll all the way up to an 89. Seems to be a little beyond his potential, if you ask me. Though he is doing much better than he was at the beginning of his career. He's enough years in Formula One, has adapted, and is a decent driver. Ocon, if you'd ask me, I think Ocon's always higher than Gasly. Will always be higher than Gasly, though there are people who don't like him. There are people who blame him for the incidents caused by others. Bottas at an 89 seems awfully high for a 37-year-old who should be retiring anytime. 88 for Tsunoda, 88 for Sainz, 87 for Porsche. Dang. Okay. Perez, 86. Magnussen's an 85. Albon's an 85. Maloney is an 84. Dang, son. Sargent's an 84, and that's why we need to part ways there. Piastri's an 84. Those guys are too good. Okay, now we're starting to talk about nerfing ability, right? So we can push harder, but 82 is still a little too high. So Doohan, Drugovich, Gio, Hauger, Verschoor, Lawson are all out. 80 is still not quite enough nerf. So there's that's a lot of drivers that are capable. It's definitely different than the look we had earlier, where you start with guys in the 70s. We're looking at an entire wide range of all the reserve drivers are easily good enough. Some of the F2 drivers, Fittipaldi, Stanix is 78. This and you can see where we started scouting. I had scouted Enzo Fittipaldi. He was a 79. He's already an 80 now, so he's ruled himself out. And I have 5 scouted drivers here left, and I'll be picking one of them. So a 78, 2 77s, a 76, and a 75. All the drivers are young. Doesn't matter. They're only going to be with us for a single year. I'm not quite sure how I want to handle this, because I think I want them to do well on merit, right? So I think I want somebody who's going to have good pace and not make too many mistakes, because if we're nerfing them overall by this much, if we're bringing them down, like say to Goth at a 75, we're talking about a 9-point drop, right? Whatever pace he does have to be at that rating, he's going to need to be at his best. We don't need to nerf them further. So kind of choosing the best of these 5 drivers, unless Stanik's a little too good, and yeah, we'll see. All 5 have expiring contracts. Victor Martins is not interested in negotiating with us, so hey, we're down to 4 to choose from. Stanik has a good balance on pace. The accuracy and control are high, so meaning they won't make very many mistakes. The smoothness is okay. They're going to be a little bit rough on tires. I'm sure that would develop over the course of the season. That's what usually happens when you bump to F1. And racecraft is okay, right? Not going to overtake or defend terribly well, but none of it's awful. For somebody who is, a 78 overall, that's a pretty good balance. Overtakes are going to be made easier because he has high aggression, but mistakes seem more likely, meaning more racing incidents can occur. That's not necessarily a good thing. I think I want somebody who is going to drive clean. So that's one definite thing to consider. Not very good overtaking or defending, but is aggressive, means a lot more incidents. Meanwhile, Crawford is a little mixed on his pace, a little weak entering corners, but stronger in other areas. Already has the smoothness, little stronger overtaking and defending, but again, high aggression while not having great ratings here. The Brazilian Bortoleto, terrible at reactions. Accuracy and control's not that high, and again, high aggression. And our final guy, Goth, cornering and braking are very good, though reactions, right? The acceleration piece is going to be weak, and that's a weakness of our car. The accuracy is okay, but the control is there, meaning he's going to avoid incidents more often. Not great on tires, not good at overtaking, but good at defending, so he can hold position a little bit better, and is not aggressive to the extent that he's not going to be making the mistakes. That could be a decider for me on this one, as he's the only one. I would have gone for somebody kind of medium on that. I would have liked to have seen someone medium. Overall, they're all similar drivers in most ways. But somebody who's not going to make the mistakes and wreck the car means we're going to save money. And as a driver who's going to be in the seat for a single season and be a holdover but needs to be able to score some points, I worry about his reactions and his smoothness and his overtaking ability. But he's good in some other areas. I think that's who we're going to go for. We're going to offer him a contract. And we've got him signed up for the coming season at $1.5 million. Bonuses for 5th place. Minimum bonus. 1-year deal. It's done, folks. Oliver Goth will be with the team for the coming season in place of Logan Sargent, bringing us effectively down by just over half to a 75 overall driver. Another month gone by, Sargent seems to be approaching some sort of maximum. His defending goes +1. That's all. For Flourish, +2 in braking. That's awesome. +1 in control. That's awesome. That is 3 very well placed points for us. And then for Tanaka, big gains. +1 cornering, +2 braking, +1 smoothness, +1 overtaking. Big 5 points right there.
Welcome to the United States Grand Prix. We're in Austin, but there are no wild cowboys on the track this weekend, just some serious horsepower. It's sure to be a race to remember. The Circuit of the Americas has it all. Twists and turns, steep climbs, fast corners, and a power-hungry Sector 2. Quite a headache to balance, even if teams will be looking at maximising downforce overall. The grid is all set here in Texas for the 19 laps of today's sprint.
Always a popular event with the audiences in Austin. We're hoping to see drivers dueling it out around the circuit of the Americas.
This is it, a dash to the finish line. Things are hotting up here in Texas for the sprint. It's lights out and away we go.
Another sprint, another nerfed weekend though with Sargent. The ERS was too bad, so we have replaced it for the one that'll take us to the end of the season. But engine, 23%, gearbox, 22%. That should really slow Sargent down. Slowed him up enough to be 12th in qualifying, but in practice he has been top 10. Flourish, meanwhile, not last, but she's still nerfed in a similar manner with her engine being a weaker one, her ERS being weak, her gearbox 79%. I'm trying to make it to the remainder of the season with that. But with back-to-back sprint weekends and already a longer episode, especially with hiring a new driver, we don't have time. So I'm going to go really fast. For the first time all season, I've finally really, truly succeeded at nerfing Sargent in a manner that has made him completely uncompetitive. This engine is so bad. His gearbox is so bad that he is significantly off the pace. 17th for him. Flourish has just fallen to last place here on the final 2 laps. I haven't done anything since the start of this race. I gave them a push for a lap and a half, backed off, and sped up right till the finish. Final lap underway, and looks like we're going to be 17th and 20th.
We're not far off now here in Austin as the drivers ready themselves for this 56-lap race. The McLaren driver now fully focused on this race.
They've done well to secure a P9 start, and they'll be keen to convert that into some points.
And it looks like we're good to go. Here we go. It's the United States Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
As we begin the race from P15, P17, of course there were some penalties out there. I'm not even driving aggressive to start this race. I'm just driving, and I'm speeding it up from the get-go and going fast. We have a medium, hard, medium strategy, so I will have to manage some pit stops along the way for this one. But we've successfully nerfed the cars, and it's totally fine. Because even if we're at the very back of the grid for this one and don't do anything, I mean, both cars have been slowed. Even if we don't finish higher than 19th and 20th, it's fine, because we have had so many successes. The board is over the moon with us. So one bad race, which we'll have 4 after this, by the way, so we have one more set of components. One more set of components to get us through the remainder of the season for those 4 races. So we'll unnerf ourselves the next time. The best thing that can happen to us today is for Norris to grab a bunch of points once again. He's currently in P5, and put McLaren in a stronger position, put him that much closer to us, and that with 4 races to go, I have a feeling next race I'll be a little bit stronger again. By the way, I have 3 new components that will be on the card next time for Flourish. That means Sargent will also have slightly reevaluated, upgraded, maybe 1 or 2 better components. He actually has 1 better this week, as he was down to the last side pod and it was in really bad shape, so I went ahead and upgraded his side pod to the same one that Flourish has. Otherwise, the other 5 are still secondary components to hers. But the upgrades that I was doing earlier when I started them, I think last episode, I suggested that there would be another round. There's not going to be another round of upgrades. We're going to be into the final period of the year on the next one, and it's going to be too late into the season for that to be a thing. So the chassis, the suspension, they are done for the year. Those 3 upgrades that just finished, they are going to be the final ones going onto the car next race, all 3 of them. The first one's actually done for 2 of them. The other one's was done here over the weekend, so all 3 of them have one ready. I'm waiting for the second one to be ready so we have some reserves before we start using them up for the final races. And I'm only constructing like 3 with the end of the season this close. Sargent might see them. I don't know. Part of me wants Sargent to go out and win a race before we part ways with him, but I don't want the consequences of that. I've made myself clear on where I stand, what I want from the remainder of this season, and it's not success. Been there, done that. The Nerf, or we're playing Nerf football the rest of the year. Riding on board with Sargent as he's going to take his pit. Florsch is only about 5 seconds behind, so let's hope we get a good clean stop in. As close as they've ever been. 2.682, and Florsch 2.465. Good stop for her. Let's hope she's still about 5 seconds behind. Yes, she is. Okay. Alright, we got him out just in time. Alright, they're onto the hards for this one. We're at the back of the grid. We've nerfed Sargent to the point that Florsch is almost ahead of him, and Florsch is nerfed too. Just not to the extent. Minor engine wear, minor ERS. It's not even counting minor ERS. Actually, I think that one's going to try to go to the rest of the season for her too. But fuel's already within a kilogram. We're going to be on cruise mode, but we've still got to cruise our way through one more pit stop as we rush through this race. Have no impact on it. Ferrari going to pull ahead further in the championship with another 1-2, and Norris, for now anyway, on the podium. That could get McLaren ahead of us a lot earlier than expected with 4 races to go. Could get themselves in a strong enough position where we might be able to have one decent race with Sargent of those last 4 while nerfing the other 3. For now though, P19, P20. I haven't been here in a while. But Florsch, still just 5 seconds behind. 5 seconds back of Sargent. She's keeping pace with him. That's great to see. Not on merit, but it's great to see anyway. Oh, Florsch with a lockup. That was turn 1, top of the hill. Dropped her down about 5% on the tire wear, but nothing too bad there. This time on board with Sargent as we head down. Again, Florsch is only about 6 seconds back, so it's very close between them. 2.431. Florsch definitely had some room. Oh, we've got a problem. Damn it. No, we have an 8% chance. 8%. We've had way too many problems this season. 4.37. Where was the problem?
The Williams team take their places.
Right front. Last thing we needed. First thing we needed is happening. We're at the back of the grid, not contesting points. Part of me would rather be in 11th than the 19th, but Nerf is Nerf, and it does not bother me to have a bad race, especially with what we're doing here. And we have the components to take us through the end of the season now, as long as we don't have some sort of incident that destroys, because everything that's left will last the 4 races. We'll be able to, switch to those, and maybe the last race or 2 is going to be nerfed similar to this. For Florsch, I worry about her ERS because it's already the last one, but cruise control going fine, fuel's going to be fine, 12 laps to go, and we are well off the back of the grid, but others will pit down the stretch here. We're not the last ones. And while we've gone ahead of Albon, that appears to be about it, unless anybody makes a last-second pit stop. Sargent's well behind Gio, well ahead of Albon, and Florsch is 7 seconds behind Albon. Folks, we've succeeded at doing it. Norris not on the podium anymore, but he is in P4, ready to score points. And Magnussen has the fastest lap and is vying for P9 if he could beat Stroll to it to add a few more points for McLaren. And that should be either about level or have them just ahead of us. It was a sprint weekend, so if they scored points in the sprint, they will be ahead of us in the Constructors with 4 races to go. That's an ideal 2 races for us. As awful as they were, I'm thrilled by dropping to 7th. Another 1-2 for the Ferraris. Red Bull rebounds a little bit today with Sainz up in third. Verstappen just P7, really off the pace there. They're going to drop further behind in second in the constructors. But yeah, the Norris, fourth place, very big for us. Albon and Florsch ended up lapped. Sargent did not, so he's going to have to go around one more time here. Sargent does drop to 7th. I don't care about that part. He's having a good season. But Ferrari pulls away a little bit from Red Bull. Alpine still comfortably 3rd. Aston Martin only grabbing 2 points, and Mercedes closing that gap a little bit. We do not score points. However, McLaren is now just a single point behind us. Just one. 1 point back with 4 to go. Job not done nerfing just yet. And we're going to have better engine components for the last 4 races, or at least for the next couple of races while it degrades. We could be back in the points for the next 2. And here's to hoping that if we do manage to pick up points, it's only a couple. At this rate, though, McLaren looking really good at the moment, and hopefully they can keep that up and pull ahead of us and pull away, even if we do get a few more points. If we get to 150, as long as they get to 151, life is good. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.